So now I want to talk about emotional intelligence because it's really become a hot topic nowadays, and uh, you hear it as a kind of like a buzzword, I think. But to you, what is emotional intelligence, also known as EQ?
Yes, EQ or EI, also that's out there too. It's basically an indicator of your overall success in coping with the coping with the environmental demands, I should say, through your own emotional and social functioning.
Wow, sounds very deep. um, so I know that many people think of emotional intelligence differently. Um, but in your practice, how is emotional intelligence measured or assessed? Because this can seem very abstract to a lot of people, Diane.
Yeah. Well, of course there is the assessment. There's, emotional intelligence assessments, which I I don't hate them. I'm certified in several, but they're not my favorite tools. I'll be really honest, and it's a little surprising sometimes. And other people have said like, "Really, Diane? Isn't that like how you run your business?" And for me, I can, but I prefer just a dialogue and to really work with people. And I have the knowledge because I understand the assessments. So I can use that knowledge in a way that can be a bit more conversational, a bit more connecting, a bit more intuitive, a bit more conceptual sometimes to then turn into action steps. Then sometimes the fear or the anxiety that's generated from an assessment and someone says, oh my God, this is what I am, which is not true. And because of my background in marketing research and statistics and surveys and segmentation schemes, which are built from surveys such as these assessments, I have a lot of training in that. And I prefer to not let people get overly analytical or anxious or labeled through that. So I hope that helps. Your
Yeah, it
question.
does. It does. I don't know as much about emotional intelligence as you do. I don't have any, special training in it. I think it's very interesting because people do ask me sometimes, are there levels? And I do think it's one of the more abstract concepts when you think about what people talk about, right? So communication or conflict resolution, I think people can kind of visually or experience intuitively, hey, this is positive communication or this is negative communication, or hey, that conflict was resolved. But I think when a lot of people talk about emotional intelligence, it seems harder, like a harder conversation for them to have. Have you experienced that?
Um, I understand what you're saying. And I think that for some people, yes, until you begin to talk about what it really is. And so this emotional and social functioning scares people. But really, that's about, there's, depending on your school of emotional intelligence. I know Daniel Goleman has slightly different version and different things, but than the one that I was certified in. But they're all incredibly the same at the certainly at the conceptual and application level. So there's these different dimensions, these buckets that have then some attributes within each one. But the buckets really, they range from about your own self to about more social interrelated things. So for example, self-perception, self-expression, interpersonal decision-making, and then stress management. And they build on one another. And so it's really important to create that self-awareness, that understand how aware are you of things? Are you paying attention? Is it conscious or unconscious? What about your own self-regard, separate from your own self-esteem? And then, kind of how you express yourself through those things. And this isn't necessarily one of them, but I work a lot with folks on like their who, like who am I? Who are you? What is your value system? Lots of other things come into that because that then helps you ground in knowing that you're living your truth. That will help you self-actualize. And then comes everybody else, right? The decision making, the interactions with other people, you're using your intuition in those ways, how stressed out you're going to get because you have different perspectives and things like that, so that you dig into each of those buckets in different kinds of ways. But I believe that, it starts with yourself, for your own inner strength and success.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. That's so fascinating.